Welcome to Bold Talk series where creativity, leadership, ideas, innovation come together. My name is Epi Ludvik, and today I have a privilege to have a short one-on-one conversation with Tris Dyson, founder and executive director of Challenge Works. Tris, great seeing you. Welcome to our Bold Talk series. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for having me, Epi.
Yeah, looking forward to this conversation. Tris, let's go when you look back at the beginning of your journey. What first drew you towards solving societal problems instead of building a conventional business?
I don't know really. I don't think it was a deliberate choice. It just sort of happened that way. I tend to be drawn to things that interest me. Social, societal problems are definitely in that category, and innovation is definitely in that category. So it's sort of happened organically, I'd say.
So the innovation making you be thinking about them at the moment that could become a force for public good?
Yeah, I mean, innovation is a bit of a catch-all word, isn't it? I mean, it depends what you mean, but new ways of thinking, new models, and currently a lot of my work is around new science and technology that can, address sort of tricky problems. That's definitely what gets me out of bed in the morning.
Yeah. Now, before founding Challenge Works, you build social enterprises, worked in education, led innovation initiatives at Nesta. That's how we got connected all the way back in the days. Looking back, which experience most challenged your assumptions about how real change actually happens?
Well, I mean, I think perhaps early on, you think it's about the idea and it's about the novelty of the idea. But I think what I've learnt is it's more about perseverance. It's more about iteration, sticking with your goal, but changing how you get there as you learn and progress. And I think that's what separates often successful innovators and entrepreneurs from those that are less successful. So yeah, I think that's the big thing.
Yeah. I mean, I've been spending for more than a decade in the concept of a crowdsourcing, and that is as an enabler of an open innovation. Challenge Works is built on this fascinating idea that instead of trying to invent every solution yourself as an organization, you create the condition for thousands of or even millions of innovators to solve problems together. When did you realize that asking the right question could be more powerful than having the right answer?
Well, I mean, I think it's just important, very important to know what it is that you're trying to achieve and what the direction of travel is. I think particularly perhaps with early stage science, sometimes scientific research and discovery can be important and contributing towards the wider research community and body of knowledge, but sometimes it struggles to have a direction into, what's actually going to be practical and useful in the real world. So I think it's really important, and the way that prizes work is you identify a clear goal or a clear problem, you understand what the opportunity is ultimately, and you help that to organize innovators and entrepreneurs to try and address that problem. But if you think about it, that's no different to what a successful company would do. A CEO would say, this is what we're aiming to achieve. This is what the objective is. And that's a kind of organizing principle for the rest of the organization. So it's taking that principle, but applying it to the crowd.
It's interesting because when you find really the power of crowds internally, even externally, is that when those crowds are aligned, like when teams are aligned, you get incredibly amazing collaboration. When they're not aligned, where do you see this? That's something that surprised you. Can you share a moment when everyone understood and underestimated, ended up proving that the experts completely were wrong? Because a lot of times we think that the experts are going to solve the problem, but actually you have the non-experts who are aligned can really solve a big problem.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't go so far as to say there's, God, I've got a helicopter flying over me. I don't know if that's messing up the sound.
Is that a plane?
Sorry. Anyway, so the question was about, non-expert. I don't know if it's non-experts. I mean, I think, often you're solving, tricky scientific technological problems. So I think it's actually very rare that comes from somebody that doesn't have any expertise. But it certainly should and does come from unusual places, maybe not the company or the research institution or the university that you would sort of initially think of as being the solver. I guess with challenge prizes, that's the point, right? So you expect to be surprised. If you know where the best solution is going to come from, you shouldn't be doing a challenge prize in the first place. You should be going through a investment route or a procurement route, depending on who you are and what you're trying to achieve. So they're all a surprise to the extent to which we don't know who's going to win it and where the best solution is going to come from. I guess an example would be the winner of the Longitude Prize on an antimicrobial resistance. So for this prize, the goal was to develop a point of care diagnostic that would differentiate bacterial from viral infection. And if it's a bacterial infection, would tell you exactly which course of antibiotic you needed to take. And it would do it in under 45 minutes and with a high degree of accuracy. And it would essentially replace what currently or previously took 3 or 4 days in a lab. We didn't know where the solution, the right answer was going to be to that. Thought perhaps it could be better biomarkers or something along those lines. But actually, the solution was developed by a Swedish university spin out that developed a microfluidics solution. We would have had no idea that microfluidics was the way of developing this successful diagnostic, not least because there was a very famous case, if you remember, in California of Elizabeth Holmes, who was a bit of a con artist who built this huge diagnostics business on the base. But she was using microfluidics and it was a complete con and she wound up going to jail. Well, this was actually had a lot of similarities with that, except obviously it works.
Yeah. Well, that itself, that was a case on its own, right? I don't probably she probably had a good intention, but the problem is she ended up going in a wrong path, and people supporting her. That was really, and then on top of it, I think the level of the transparency that can happen in an organization if you're not transparent and making it accountable, those things can happen. I always believe that the crowds can really keep you in check and keep you accountable. And also it's the level of transparency that you, so how do you think the transparency plays out here versus like when you look at on the outside when the companies are closed, right? Because you certainly need like a company or an organization that is open to do such initiatives.
Yeah, it's open to the extent to which it's very visible what does and doesn't work
Hmm.
because you put the product or service or whatever it might be through rigorous testing to see whether or not it can do what it says and whether or not therefore it qualifies to win the prize. The IP though, the kind of, the secret ingredient, that does stay with the company or the university because you want them to then take it forward and exploit it. So it is open to an extent, and people can see what other teams are doing and adapt accordingly. So clarity comes from the testing of the product or service to does it do what it says it can do, and therefore has it fulfilled the criteria to win the prize.
Yeah. Now I know because I work with a lot of people in the open innovation space and prize challenges and design a challenge prize. It's an art on its own. Means balancing ambition with practicality. How do you create an environment where people feel bold enough to pursue radical ideas while still keeping them grounded in solving real world problems?
Yeah, well, I mean, you used the word art. I think it is an art more than a science. It's really important to set the right goal and to get that objective right for whatever wins the final prize. And it needs to be above and beyond what is currently possible or plausible. Otherwise, why do it? But it needs to be not such a stretch goal that that teams can't compete and achieve it. So getting that balance right is really important. And then inevitably, you need to, we find by and large, provide a lot of support along the way for teams that are making the most progress, particularly if they're pivoting and entering a new, adjacent sector industry problem area. So they might need, well, some money. So there's, some interim funding. They might need support and access to the right type of investors. They might need access to particular types of data that they otherwise can't get access to, or help with accessing regulators so that they're doing things in a way that can speed up that process. So there is quite a lot of support needed. And obviously that support gets more intensive the closer you get to a kind of, 5 or 6 finalist teams who are kind of left in the game and still trying to solve the problem.
Mm. Yeah. Now we're already have entered the era of AI, biotechnology, space innovation. They're advancing faster than ever before. Which global challenge do you believe humanity is dramatically underestimating today?
I mean, that's a tricky one. I think people are aware of what the global challenges are. What I would say though is on climate change, understandably, a lot of effort and energy is going into zero carbon and clean energy and getting us off oil and gas and coal. But going to take a long time. We are still emitting more and more um, carbon into the atmosphere year on year, and we can already see. You're in Albania. I'm in UK. We've had extremely hot summer so far. I think you probably have as well. We can already see that it's happening with all the efforts going into reducing carbon emissions. That's not tailing off anytime soon. So I think we do have to think in a big way about adaptation. How are we going to produce enough food? What are we going to do about areas with drought? How are we going to deal with flooding? How are we going to deal with cooling? Statistics, the number of people who died in the UK over the summer is astonishingly high as a consequence of the heat. So I think a big push on adaptation, as well as obviously the efforts that are going into clean energy.
Yeah, certainly it's hot here. It's like yesterday was like close to 40. That's what it
Yeah,
felt like a furnace. It reminded me like we did an event in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia a few years back, and felt
yeah.
like it felt that hot. I was like crazy. Does it get that hot in UK sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, it's much hotter than it's been in previous decades. And also because we're an island, we're surrounded by water. So there's a very high level of humidity.
Okay.
So it really adds up. And the problem in the UK as well is that our infrastructure is not built for this type of heat.
Yeah.
No, we don't generally have AC units and houses and flats, for example, and we've got an antiquated or very old transport system, underground network, and all this sort of stuff. It's not, yeah, we're just not set up for it.
Yeah, I can imagine. Now, Tris, this is a short format conversation. Thank you for joining me in this podcast. I always like to ask this last question to my guests, and that is about the word bold. What does that mean to you personally?
Well, I mean, it's about being ambitious and really striving for change and impact. I think we need a lot more of it. We've just been talking about climate adaptation. There's lots of other problems facing the world, facing Europe, facing an aging society. So we need more people who are prepared to stick their neck out and be extremely ambitious about what it is they want to achieve. I think you see more of that mindset in the US, where people, really aim big. I think we should try and foster more of that on this side of the Atlantic as well.
Certainly, be ambitious. Tris, great seeing you. Thank you for joining this Bold Talk series. Until next time, take care, be great, and be bold always. Bye bye.
Thanks, Epi.